A massive offshore wind farm that was originally intended to provide electricity to 500,000 homes has now been halted. The Trump administration claims that the permits were rushed and issued too quickly. President Trump has labeled offshore wind projects as both environmental and economic disasters and has promised to stop their further development. RWE, the first major offshore wind developer in the United States, has paused its operations, citing political uncertainty. The global trade conflict is worsening, with over 60 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity, worth around $240 billion, currently stalled. To put that into perspective, this is like cutting power for 28 million American households and throwing the clean energy sector into chaos. One key example is the Empire Wind 1 project, a 3-gigawatt initiative jointly run by RWE and National Grid. With nearly 1.49 billion euros, about $1.66 billion invested, it has been delayed indefinitely. This marks the first big sign of a global retreat from offshore wind, but the issue is not just limited to the United States. Ecuador, Norway, NGI, and France have also paused several multi-billion-dollar energy projects, proving the problem is international. Meanwhile, rising construction costs could cause U.S. electricity prices to surge by up to 2.5 times, risking higher bills for consumers. All this happens amidst strained U.S.-Germany relations. After the Trump administration's 2025 executive order halted offshore wind permits and prioritized fossil fuels, tensions escalated. This conflict isn't merely about technology or trade. It's a geopolitical battle involving hundreds of billions of dollars between two long-standing allies. For almost 80 years, the U.S.-Germany relationship was built on shared democratic values, NATO security cooperation, and strong economic ties. Germany's top trading partner has been the U.S., with two-way trade reaching 253 billion euros, about $286 billion, in 2024, helping Germany lead Europe in exports. After Donald Trump's re-election in 2024, trust began to erode America First policies and protective tariffs aimed at protecting the U.S. energy sector unsettled Berlin. The breaking point came at the Munich Security Conference in February 2025. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance publicly questioned whether European values were still worth defending. He met openly with the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party leadership, treating them as a legitimate political force. This was shocking because the AfD is widely seen as a party linked to extremist views and usually excluded from coalitions. Vance criticized Europe's free speech restrictions and accused mainstream parties of silencing opposition. He connected with Alice Weidel, co-chair of the AfD, breaking diplomatic norms since foreign leaders typically avoid interfering in Germany's internal politics. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz condemned this move, calling it unacceptable for an ally to try to steer relations with a party rejected by nearly all democratic forces. Scholz emphasized Germany's commitment to fighting extremism, shaped by its Nazi past, and declared that only Germans have the right to determine their democracy's future. The German government's strong response revealed rare tensions between the two nations. Shortly after, Friedrich Merz, likely the next chancellor and leader of the Christian Democratic Union, advocated for gradual independence from U.S. influence to protect European interests. In an interview, he said, "Europe needs more autonomy and must avoid over-relying on U.S. foreign policy." This sparked heated debate about the future of the transatlantic alliance. This political friction quickly spilled over into economics and investments. Germany's central bank, Bundesbank, warned the economy could slip into a mild recession in 2025, lowering growth forecasts from 0.3% to 0% due to trade uncertainties. The IFO Institute's February 2025 survey showed German business confidence stagnating at 85.2, below the expected 85.8, reflecting growing concern over tariffs and geopolitical risks. While expectations slightly improved, current business conditions worsened from 86.0 to 85, highlighting corporate caution. In this environment, major projects like RWE's €1.49 billion, 3-gigawatt offshore wind project in New York were postponed. German firms began reconsidering their investments in the U.S., with delays signaling growing risk. The halts threaten U.S. energy transition plans and shake European confidence in investing stateside. For Americans, the biggest worry is energy shortages that could increase electricity and fuel prices, raising living costs. Meanwhile, companies such as Chevron and ExxonMobil are downsizing or moving operations to Canada, which offers better renewable energy policies and tax incentives. Is this just a reaction to Trump's protectionism or a strategic shift in alliances? On April 2, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order imposing a 10% tariff on most imports to the U.S., including a 20% tariff on the EU and Germany, aimed at protecting American industry. These tariffs cover key renewable energy equipment like wind turbines, solar panels, transformers, and steel conduits, driving up import costs by 15 to 20%. Raw material costs like steel and aluminum, crucial for turbine blades and foundations, also soared, squeezing European investors' profits. More than 60% of German mechanical and energy companies surveyed by VDMA expect severe impacts, with some forced to adjust or cancel projects in the U.S. Rasmus Arbo, CEO of Ørsted, warned that projects like Revolution Wind and Sunrise Wind could face sharply increased costs, making continued investment in U.S. waters risky. Any policy change could wipe out profits. On his first day in office in January 2025, the Trump administration indefinitely suspended all new offshore wind project bids. This freeze crippled the sector, America's main hope for a greener future. Without a stable legal framework or financial support, many companies reconsidered investment plans. Workers and contractors in the supply chain were left waiting. European energy firms began to pull back. The German giant behind the 3-gigawatt offshore wind project in New York suspended the plan indefinitely and vowed no new projects in the U.S. Norway's Equinor halted construction on the Empire Wind 1 project, which aimed to power 700,000 homes by 2027. Equinor is even considering suing the U.S. government to protect its investments. Similarly, companies like ENGIE in France, BP in the UK, and Ørsted in Denmark postponed or canceled contracts worth tens of billions of dollars. According to Reuters, at least 60 gigawatts of planned offshore wind capacity now risks being mothballed, including projects already approved by state and federal authorities. The withdrawal of these major players triggered a chain reaction, plunging the smokeless energy industry into a crisis of confidence and halting progress. According to the U.S. National Renewable Energy Laboratory, more than 60 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity, enough to power about 28 million homes, is now on hold indefinitely. This means hundreds of billions of dollars in investments are frozen, and the risk of affordable energy shortages is growing. In response, Berlin is turning to Canada as a key new partner. Ottawa continues to offer large support packages and tax breaks for renewable projects. Could this shift reshape the global energy landscape? Drop a comment below with your thoughts. For millions of American households, the clearest impact is on electricity bills. The Empire Wind project was contracted at $155 per megawatt hour, 2.5 times the market price of around $50 per megawatt hour. When the project was paused indefinitely, the benefits of economies of scale and supply chain efficiencies disappeared. States like New York now face the possibility of higher electricity prices for consumers. U.S. officials have had to turn back to fossil fuels. Domestic gas prices have surged nearly 80% compared to last year. Reuters, analyzing LNG market and tariff impacts, reported this shift not only raises the cost of electricity generation from gas plants, but also causes pollution spikes as coal and oil are used more heavily. The Financial Times reports that over 90% of U.S. offshore wind projects, more than 60 gigawatts, are at risk of being stopped or canceled despite over $40 billion in committed investments. With the industry's average cost at $3 to $4 million per megawatt, the total pipeline's value is between $180 and $240 billion. This puts immense pressure on public and private budgets and signals lost job opportunities in coastal regions. Tens of thousands of workers who could have been employed to build and maintain wind farms are missing out. Don't forget to subscribe to Legit Geo News for the latest in-depth political analyses.